Nick Lasapio loved to fly and went around the world from Kuwait to Saudi Arabia as a V-22 Osprey pilot. The aircraft is loved by the military, especially the Marines, and unlike any other in the world. It takes off like a helicopter and, with an aeronautical miracle of engineering, rotates its jet engines to fly fast like a plane.
Nick was an experienced pilot.
He has been coined as a once-in-a-generation pilot, which gets me so emotional.
Nick's fiancée, Kelsey Hancock, remembers exactly where and when he took his last flight in 2022.
I would always say, I love you, fly safe, text me when you land.
Hancock received his final message during a refueling stop.
He had texted me, hi, I love you. And I just said, I love you too.
That June night, there was the dreaded knock at her Oceanside door.
I was like, God, please, please. I knew exactly what it was.
5 Marines from Camp Pendleton, including Nick, were killed during the training exercise. Investigators later blamed the crash on mechanical failure, saying a dual hard clutch engagement caused the accident. Hancock says before the Osprey went down, Nick made a radio call warning he had a hot gearbox, meaning the aircraft's oil was too hot. It wasn't his first time having the problem.
He had to do an emergency landing in Syria because of an engine failure. I had heard people say things like the Osprey is a widowmaker, but, I trusted in his ability.
After the mishap, the Marine Corps barred an undisclosed number of Ospreys from flying until a part called the input coil was replaced. It's part of the gearbox that houses the clutch, allowing the aircraft to fly like a helicopter-airplane hybrid. Since the mishap in Imperial County, 2 more Ospreys have crashed. Last August, 3 Marines were killed during training in Australia, and a few months later, in November, 8 Air Force crew members died off the coast of Japan during another training flight. The string of deaths led the military to ground its entire Osprey fleet of nearly 500 last December. That's left Marines at bases like here at Miramar left to rely on other aircraft. A congressional oversight committee is now probing the mishaps and working to get to the bottom of what it calls long-term problems with the Osprey. Problems that were previously identified in this 2002 Department of Defense report. I went through years of crash reports and news stories on the Osprey. Since 1992, I found 61 Americans have died in mishaps. Dozens more have been injured on the aircraft, which is made by Bell Boeing. I turned to expert pilot Rex Rivolo for insight. He analyzed the Osprey for the Pentagon and wrote a memo in 2003 raising concerns. His report identified 6 critical issues with the Osprey. Rivolo warned the aircraft was more likely to crash in hostile situations than a regular helicopter.
There are issues that are basically due to the design and cannot be mitigated very easily.
Rivolo found the Osprey was also prone to roll and warned its lack of auto-rotation capability didn't meet the threshold for a survivable emergency landing. In a normal helicopter, if engines fail, the copter can glide to safety. Rivolo said the Osprey couldn't do that.
If you lose both engines in a helicopter mode and you're below 5,000–6,000 feet, you're going to die.
Rivolo's report included observations from pilots who outlined issues they had landing the aircraft, including in the desert.
We just saw it drop.
Donald Kelper saw 4 Ospreys flying in 2015 in Hawaii and noticed a dust cloud surrounding one before it crashed.
What first caught our eye was when they started hovering and going over the area was the amount of dust that they were kicking up from the old airfield.
He estimates the Osprey was 150 feet above the ground.
And all of a sudden, one of them just dropped.
Rivolo says pilots need better training and a warning in the cockpit when a hard landing is likely. The violent drop left 2 Marines from Camp Pendleton dead and 20 others injured. Rivolo says pilots need better training and a warning in the cockpit when a hard landing is likely.
Pilots continue to operate in the helicopter mode according to the rules of a helicopter, and you can't do that.
I asked the Pentagon to respond to Rivelo's claims. A defense official told me the V-22's drive system lets it keep flying if an engine fails and says safety improvements are being made. They include giving pilots new cues during landings with poor visibility and mandating flight hour limits on input quill parts that are being redesigned. The military is working with the theory the aging parts are to blame for the hard clutch engagement problem. That is what investigators believe caused the Osprey Nick was in to go down. But the Pentagon admits the theory hasn't been definitively proven.
Still exploding. Wow.
After the 2015 crash in Hawaii, the Marines said a stalled engine put the Osprey in an unavoidable free fall.
If the one engine quits, it's going to roll.
Former Air Force accident investigator Rich Martindale has reviewed years of Osprey crash data. He's compared the mishaps to other aircraft.
It's not the worst, and but it's not the best either.
Pilots do a lot of checks before they take off. Could something have prevented this?
Probably not. In this case, if it's a mechanical failure.
The Department of Justice has been looking into Osprey parts. Last September, the DOJ announced Boeing would pay $8.1 million to settle allegations it violated the False Claims Act. The department alleged Boeing failed to follow critical manufacturing specifications when making parts for the V-22. The allegations surfaced after 3 whistleblowers from inside a Pennsylvania Boeing plant came forward. A Boeing spokesperson told me the company entered a settlement to resolve the allegations without admission of liability.
This is him flying, actually.
Back in Oceanside, Hancock wants accountability and a fix that will get the Osprey back on mission safely.
We can't keep asking our service members to fly with known mechanical concerns and issues.
Since the crash, she's become a reservist with the Marines and created the Purple Skies Foundation to support all significant others of service members killed in the line of duty. Because she wasn't married to Nick, she wasn't eligible for spousal benefits.
I really needed some help.
Hancock is back on her feet now, using her voice to keep the memory of her fiancé and his friends alive.
It's very important to me that, we always say their names. Captain Nick Savio, Captain John Sachs, Corporal Seth Rasmussen, Corporal Nathan Carlson, and Lance Corporal Evan Strickland.
Marines lost in a troubled aircraft, but never forgotten. Austin Grabish, Team 10.